Welcome back to the Property Frontline. Today I'm here with Lina De Marco from Ademus Business Solutions, and we're going to be talking about the very interesting topic of SMSFs. But to kick us off, let's have a little bit of a chat about what Lina does. So Lina, can you tell me a little bit about what you do?
Sure, Debra. Thanks for having me here today. We're a contemporary accounting firm delivering smart and sustainable solutions to our clients who are predominantly small business owners and individuals wanting to maximise and build their wealth through tax minimisation and using their superannuation.
And I know you've got this unique approach that you describe as a sustainable solution. So can you give me a little bit more of an explanation about that?
Sure. What we're getting at when we say sustainable is that we try not to overcomplicate things for clients. We want to offer a solution that a strategy that you can continue with over the course of your life that isn't overly complicated and too much for you to manage and handle, and also, not too costly. So that's what we
Yeah, because it can get very, very tricky. I know myself. I just really want to keep things streamlined. Life is busy enough as without overly complicating things.
Yep.
And the more complex your structures means that there's more opportunity for drama and mistakes.
That's
basically.
right. That's right. And there's also, I guess, a propensity not to want to go through with it.
Yeah.
Because it just gets too much.
Yeah.
And that's really not helpful for anybody.
No, that's right. It's not. Okay, so we're talking about SMSFs.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the benefits of setting an SMSF up, particularly for people who are thinking about property, but also generally?
I love SMSFs. There are just so many opportunities with having a self-managed super fund. But the primary benefit is about having control over your retirement savings, including the investments, control over the investments within the fund. Self-managed super funds allow for a lot more flexibility in your investments. It also allows us to be able to purchase and sell assets very quickly. Another reason is the diversity in options for investments that you have. So a self-managed super fund, you can invest in direct property, direct shares. In particular, there are circumstances which allow members of the fund to sell their assets to the self-managed super funds in certain situations. And there is also the opportunity where people who are in business can buy business real property in their self-managed super fund that they can use in their business and lease it back to their business.
Yeah.
So that's a really good tax planning opportunity.
It is.
And a lot of my clients take advantage of that and utilising their super balances to be able to purchase their business property that they're operating their business out of.
Yeah, I really like that kind of opportunity, particularly with commercial property.
That's right. In addition, as one of the other benefits is, ultimately a self-managed super fund is a vehicle to save for retirement while you're being employed. But the self-managed super fund exists right throughout your life. So once you do go into retirement, it stays active and it's still being used and the assets are still in there. The other benefit is that it can also be used across generations. Okay,
right. Sort of like a discretionary
there are different limitations, but your children can become members of the fund.
Oh, right.
And they can contribute, their employers can contribute their superannuation to the fund.
Oh, right.
Okay,
Wow.
so there's advantages in doing that also.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that side of it. Okay. So how is an SMSF established and how long does it take?
Okay. Look, it is a bit of a process. Initially, we would meet with the client and do a fact find. The purpose of this is to ensure that setting up a self-managed super fund is in the best interest of the client. Once we do that initial fact find, we then prepare a statement of advice recommending the setup of the self-managed super fund. Once we've done that, we then basically establish the fund. So we do all the, the corporate documents and all the legal structure to actually establish the fund. Usually this process can take about a week, and it really depends on, I guess, how available the client is to sign off on documents and get bits of information back to us. Once that has established, we then open up a bank account for the self-managed super fund, and we begin the process of rolling out the funds from the retail funds or the industry funds into the bank account of the self-managed super fund. This is the process that takes a little bit more time because we are relying on third parties and their processes to actually process the application. And normally once that's done, they will EFT your balance in that particular fund into your bank account. So this can take about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Once the money's deposited in your account, it's free to invest as you see fit.
Yeah.
So look, on average, the whole process from the start of that fact find right until the fund's being available for investment, probably 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. And I also understand there's a couple of extra things that you need to be mindful of, in particular any insurances that are attached with the
Absolutely. So normally in your retail fund and in your industry fund, you would have an insurance, a life insurance component. So what we normally do is we actually leave the retail fund open with the minimum balance to keep that insurance ticking over.
Yeah.
Until such time as you've set up your self-managed super fund, you've made your investment, then we can go to an insurance broker and get some insurance in your self-managed super fund.
Yeah.
And that way you're covered. And it's also not overwhelming. It's a lot to do all at once, which is why I recommend to clients, let's just do it step by step.
Yeah.
Let's get the funds rolled over, invested, and then we'll go back to the insurance.
Yeah.
And look, and some clients are happy, depending on everyone's medical history, depending on their age, they might just leave that retail fund open purely to have the insurance. So, and they might do one contribution a year just to keep the balance topped up. So there's flexibility there.
Yeah. Okay. And of course, we're not doing a complete detailed analysis right here because everybody needs their own situation discussed.
That's right. And we probably need to do a disclaimer here as that this is...
we'll do a disclaimer at the start. That will come up, as
a general advice.
Yep. Okay. And so once your SMSF is established and you've got things running, what's involved in the ongoing management?
Okay. Record keeping is very important when it comes to self-managed super fund. We offer a lot of training and hand-holding during that very first year so that you understand your responsibilities as trustees of your self-managed super fund. Every year, a self-managed super fund needs to complete a set of financial statements and prepare an income tax return. This then gets audited by an external auditor, and usually the accountant will arrange and liaise with the auditor to do this. This is where the record keeping in particular is quite important because the auditors will want to see source documents for any payment or income that's come into the fund, as well as evidence of the investment holdings. And if you have been maintaining your records well during the year, this process is very simple, but it's when you sort of lax in your paperwork that this can be quite a drawn-out process. So really, I think for trustees, it's about understanding what you need to keep and having the structures in place to enable you to keep those records adequately.
Yeah, and I think it's really like anything in life. If you start out with a nice, clear approach and then just even monthly, just making sure you're going through the steps so that then by the time it comes to the end of the financial year, it's not a fight between, like it is with my husband and I. You do it, no, I'll do it. With the admin.
Yeah, that's right. It should, it shouldn't be too cumbersome. If you, set up a drive on your computer and that's your SMSF folder, and as mail comes in, or you get documents all online now, and you save it in that file. At the end of the year, that gets uploaded to Dropbox, and it's all there, and the accountant's got it, the auditor's got it. So, just getting those little habits correct from the onset will make your life a lot easier.
Yep. Okay. That sounds good. Right. And so in relation to the whole property aspect, can we have just a little bit of a chat about that? So in the preparation for today, I noticed that, and actually this is jumping around, which I'm bad about doing. I noticed that you've suggested that people can have their cryptocurrency in their SMSF as well.
Yeah, well, look, the beauty of self-managed super fund is that it does open up a wide range of investment opportunities. All your traditional investments are available, your shares, your managed funds, residential investments, commercial investments. Some clients have cryptocurrencies.
Can't believe it.
So, you are, as long as the record keeping is being done adequately, you can invest in all those types of assets, even cash assets. Some people just prefer to, have some money in term deposits. But look, property is probably one of the best investment opportunities in a self-managed super fund. And primarily this comes down to the fact that when a super fund moves into retirement phase, which is when you start to take out a pension, if you sell any assets, such as your property, which you've probably been holding on to for 10, 15 years or more, and has had significant capital growth, it is capital gains tax free. Now, this is a tremendous tax saving compared to holding a property outside of a self-managed super fund environment.
Yeah,
so
because then if you do need to sell, or if you had planned to sell that property to maybe pay off some of your other purchases, then you're subject to the potentially 50% capital gains tax.
As an individual, yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's really about at the start, or as soon as possible, really map out a longer term plan for what you're thinking about doing. And in relation to tips for property owners or people who really love that asset class, do you have any other potential tips for people who...
I think is looking at, getting that right property. I mean, as I mentioned, one of the advantages is the fact that a property can potentially be capital gains tax free. So I guess you need someone to do your research for you, or do the research yourself, and, really look at, what areas going to have that really great capital growth.
Yeah.
Look, none of us have a crystal ball, but we can look at past trends, and we can analyse the market and, what Debra does, pick assets that will have that growth, because essentially you're going to need that growth. So for me, I would say, big tip is get the right property, get the right advice, spend time and money on that, because you're going to be better off in the long run.
Yeah, that's right.
Buying an asset that is going to have, a capital-rich asset, because when you go to sell it, it's capital gains tax free.
Yeah, and it's all money, so you want it to work as hard as possible for you. So if you thinking about maybe spending $500,000 on a purchase, and whether that's using whether you're buying it with cash from your fund or whether you're leveraging, so you're getting a loan, and we'll talk about that in a second. If you're buying a property that is worth, say, $500,000, and one property will have a projected growth, or really clear evidence that there's going to be growth of, say, around about 10% per year, as opposed to property that may never grow, even though you might be told it's going to grow, as long as you do your research and you're choosing properties that will absolutely grow, then you're going to have property that may be worth $1 million when you go to sell, rather than still being 500 or 600,000.
That's right.
So it does make a huge amount of difference. So thinking about the downsides though, when I'm talking to people about what kind of structures, and of course I'm not licensed to do that, I will just talk in options. You always need to speak to your accountant to get your own tailored advice. But one of the downsides with having property in an SMSF is that you can't leverage against any gains. So it's about making sure that when you're going to put something into your SMSF, it is with a view to leaving it there for the long term.
Yeah, that's right. There are limitations on the borrowing structures and what you can do with leveraging. You're absolutely correct in saying that you want to have that property. You want to hold it for a long term. This is a long-term plan. Super is long-term. So we want to have that plan in place, and we want to see that growth.
Yeah, yep, that's right. And of course, if people want to use other structures, they can also talk to you about that. But today we're talking about the SMSF because most people need to utilise, for really best performance. There might be some properties that they want to keep in a discretionary trust or some other way, or in their own name.
That's right. If they want to, exactly. It really depends on the individual and what their goals and their financial plan is. But the fact that superannuation funds, they can borrow, it basically opens up a market to you, because even if you don't have a huge amount of funds accumulated that will enable you to purchase a property outright, you can borrow the balance.
Yes.
And so don't think that, look, because I've got enough, I can't do this.
Yeah.
You absolutely can.
Because the market is always changing, and at the moment the market is opening up, because
it
only
is.
18 months ago you couldn't find a lender.
No, all the big players, all the big banks pulled out of the SMSF lending market, and some of the smaller players basically took that role, and so the products did become a lot more expensive. The application fee's higher, and you're paying a higher interest rate. However, of late, I have been informed by some brokers that there is a new product out there, and a new bank that's offering it, which is offering a more reasonable application fee, and the rates are also a bit more competitive. So, definitely worth shopping around there.
Yep. Okay. And so we're just about to wrap up. Is there anything else that you think we need to have a bit more of a chat about?
I just think that a lot of people think that self-managed super funds are sophisticated products. They're for high net worth individuals, and they're beyond the reach of your average mum and dad. And I just want to clarify that no, it's not.
Yeah.
They don't have to be overly costly and overly complicated to establish and to maintain. A lot of us have our superannuation as one of our biggest assets, really. And to just sort of have it sitting there and just ticking away and not having any control over it is a real worry for people. And also having it in a retail fund, you are not necessarily diversifying across various asset bases.
No, that's right.
So, in a self-managed super fund, yes, you can still invest in shares, and you can still invest in managed funds, and you can have your property.
Yeah.
So, you're across various asset classes, and that's important for your peace of mind.
Yep. I think that's a very good point to wrap up on. So thanks very much for watching. You can reach Lina at ademus.com.au. What's your email address?
So it's Lina, Lina, at ademus.com.au.
Okay, sounds good. And I'm Debra from the Property Frontline. Thanks very much for watching.
Thank you.